When I first heard that Trayvon Martin was getting an honorary degree in aeronautical engineering or aeronautics from a black college in Florida, I was 100% sure it was a hoax. And I was waiting for the following day story to come out about how all these papers bid on this story that was transparently untrue, because how could a black college, give a honorary degree to Trayvon Martin, whose short life was distinguished only by the fact that he liked to get high? Well, it wasn't a hoax. They did give him an honorary degree. He is being celebrated for all the things he accomplished in his life. But that's also a good time to remember the few people who really did figure out what happened with Trayvon Martin, what his life was really like, how his life was one constant episode of crime and violence after another, despite the little fairy tales being ginned up by his lawyers and his crew of PR people around the country. A fairy tale that is still being told today. So now on this day when Trayvon Martin is going to get when the parents of Trayvon Martin are going to receive his honorary aviation degree from Florida Memorial University, it's worth just spending a minute or two just remembering how that story the true story was broken. The people that really broke this story, and Jack Cashel will tell you that, because Jack Cashel wrote a book about this called If I Had a Son, about the true story of Trayvon Martin, and Jack Cashel really acknowledges his own debt to a group called the Conservative Treehouse. It was the Conservative Treehouse that first started getting all the internal documents about Trayvon Martin as a high school student. They're the ones who figured out, and this is something that's in our wheelhouse too, right? Because we talk about it a lot as well. The numbers. So it was the Conservative Treehouse who first got the documents that showed that Trayvon Martin was, they saw him on a security footage doing graffiti, writing WTF all over the school. So they went to his locker. When they got to his locker, they found all this burglary tools and items from a burglary. They knew where the stuff came from. They didn't charge Trayvon, and there's lots of memos, and you want to check out the Conservative Treehouse story or Jack's book on this for more details, but they didn't charge him, and they were very explicit why. They said they wanted to keep the discipline in school because they didn't want their crime numbers to go up, and sure enough, it worked. Shortly after this whole period of how they stopped reporting crime and violence in their schools, because crime and violence in schools in that area is a black thing. Soon enough, shortly after, they put out a big press release saying, yeah, crime is down 60%. Aren't we great people? So it had nothing to do with crime. It just had everything to do with the crime numbers and how they just weren't reporting them, and how they're using the numbers to not illuminate what's going on with crime, but really to hide what's happening with crime. And that's really the story of Trayvon Martin, right? I mean, everything they said about him was untrue. And isn't that really a microcosm for all the other stories we see around the country that we cover here every day? The reporters are in constant denial, deceit, and delusion about the nature and the extent and the severity and the sociopathic nature of a lot of this crime and violence, and how it's directed, how it's wildly out of proportion, how it's directed at white people, old people, young people, Asian people, gay people, straight people, transgender. Pick a group. Their crime against that group is so wildly out of proportion by black people. I mean, it's like no one else is even second. I'm thinking. So why don't we go up to San Francisco for the latest example of denial, deceit, and delusion? A father is in a park in San Francisco. A bunch of black people are having some kind of ruckus. They called it a water fight, whatever the hell that is. So the father, who obviously doesn't watch this channel, the father goes up to the 20 black people. The paper refused to disclose they are blacks, but two cops from San Francisco shouldn't say two cops, I should more accurately say two members of the law enforcement community in San Francisco emailed me to tell me this story. Anyway, they said 20 black people were in this park, and the father goes up and says, hey, would you guys mind moving while my son's playing here? And they didn't tell me the description of the father, but if I had to bet a nickel on it, I'd say he was Asian. But and so the paper then reports that 8 black people of the 20 turned around and beat the hell out of this father in front of the kid. First of all, their math is wrong. I mean, if you say 8 people are beating somebody up, what that means is you can literally, physically only fit 8 people around a person at once. The other 12 are still there, cheering, laughing, encouraging, taunting. Nobody's stopping. There was this story came out this week. I think it was in Philadelphia. They arrested 13 guys in a fraternity because I think somebody died during a hazing incident. And they correctly said that if you're part of a group that does something to there's somebody dies or somebody gets hurt, it's the whole group that's responsible, not just the 8 people who are physically standing over him, kicking him, beating him, and taunting him. So that's, I mean, and of course this is happening. If you read the comments, people in San Francisco are going, "Hey, why is this starting to happen all the time around here?" And it is. It's happening a lot. I mean, we just had that episode over in Oakland on the BART train. And you'll see, if you read the San Francisco papers, you'll see read Don't Make the Black Kids Angry. You see we document that there a lot. A lot of black mob violence directed against these white people and Asian people whose only question is, why is this happening? Or why didn't I know this was happening before? And as long as we're on the topic of Trayvon Martin and his family, why don't we finish up with a nice, warm family video like this one.
It was just crazy. Everything really happened so fast.
The video is chilling. A car ramming another car. And then
you can see the dark-colored sedan actually rams several people and goes and runs into the building.
It's right after the car hits the building that Xavier Hargrove says he was hit.
When she was backing up, she was actually getting ready to hit a child, and I went to grab the child, and she hit me in my leg with the car.
Investigators and witnesses say those involved are related.
Yeah, they all first cousins, that's it.
Brunswick County Sheriff Brian Roberts says,
what happened last night, Wayne, I've never seen anything like that in 20 years.
It was just before 5 Wednesday afternoon.
The investigation shows that they had a disagreement on Facebook.
That led to a confrontation at this apartment complex that quickly escalated.
That confrontation spewed over into physical assaults, to include vehicles being used to ram people and to ram buildings.
Witnesses and investigators say all 3 cars had children inside them at the time.
We tried to help to get the baby out the car, and she won't have it. They tried to hit us all with the car, so I just got out of the way.
One of the victims
had to be med flighted to VCU over some significant injuries.
The 2 drivers of the cars now behind bars.
Both with felony and misdemeanor charges, dealing with the destruction of property, dealing with the endangerment of the children, but there are a multitude of other charges.
So that's the story of Trayvon Martin. I mean, for every one person that sees his story and remembers a innocent child who didn't do nothing and was shot by George Zimmerman for no reason whatsoever, there's now a large number of people who know this kid was nothing but a little hoodlum whose life was recreated by a bunch of PR people after he died, turned it into one big episode of denial, deceit, and delusion. And they cap it off with giving him an honorary degree in aviation. You know, they also have dinners when his parents go to the meetings of the National Association for Black Journalists. The room is standing room only. You can't get into that seminar when they're speaking. And when they're done speaking, everybody gives them a standing ovation. All these journalists, air quotes. But among young black people, Trayvon is still held up as an icon of all this individual achievement they should be striving for, i.e. to commit criminal acts and to make it seem as if they didn't really do anything. Not to worry, the aviation program at Florida Memorial University is going strong with all these Trayvon wannabes just waiting in the wings. So 5 years from now, you're hopping on a plane and you see one of these guys getting in the pilot's cabin, let me know how you feel about that. But whatever you do, don't make the same mistake the father from San Francisco did when he went up to those 20 black people, told them to knock it off. Because you'll just be making the black kids angry.